answer. Last week, I attended the Ukraine Forever concert at the Usher Hall, along with many of my colleagues, including Audrey sitting beside me, to see Scotland and Ukraine come together in cultural exchange and in solidarity with the Ukrainian people in fundraising for the war effort. And we had performances from Old Blind Dogs, Elzara Batalova, James Robertson, the Cultural Code Orchestra from the Conservatoire in Scotland, and Oskana Mavarodi, and the absolute powerhouse diva, Karina Cherkakova. And it was a wonderful evening of talent and of culture, but very, very profoundly sad for all of us there too in those circumstances. And I also had last week the pleasure of welcoming the Consul, Andrei Madzianowski, to our committee to give evidence and to be able to explain the position of the Ukrainian people at that time. He came with passion, with dignity and with thanks to the Scottish people, and I think so-called world leaders could learn a lot from him. He told us that for several years his country had been bleeding innocent victims because of the aggressor state of Russia, a terrorist country led by war criminal Putin, and it had been bombing and destroying Ukraine and its people. It's been mentioned that Putin thought this would be over in 3 days, and many people thought so too, and Mr MacArthur mentioned that, but I think we should pay tribute to our own Professor Phillips O'Brien of St Andrews University, who was a lone voice to say, no, this will not happen. The Ukrainian people would resist and would dig in, and that's what we have seen from a very proud and very brave nation. Of course, we are your partners, and after all, unity among allies is what Ukraine needs right now, and unity is key and common for all of us. And I must impart in the Chamber the words of the Consul, who asked for 3 things. That Ukraine needed 3 powers: the power of weapons, which we've discussed at length in the Chamber this evening, the power of economic sanctions, which perhaps are out with our control in this Parliament, but we all have a voice with colleagues in Westminster regarding that, and the power of diplomacy. I've talked a bit about the cultural diplomacy. I have to say, a few years ago, the Society of Scottish Artists had in their exhibition and had Peter Howson's triptych depicting the illegal invasion and the strength and the determination of the Ukrainian people. And that's what we need to keep working in our way in Scotland to support that cultural diplomacy and diplomacy at all levels. Mr Brown was able to mention the Dnipro Kids and Hibernian Football Club's long-standing association with the Dnipro Kids charity, and it was wonderful to hear the work of Stephen Carr and the welcome that the 50 children who came from that charity to make their home in Scotland, how well they were living here in Scotland, and how grateful the Ukrainian people were for our support for those young people from Dnipro. Kenneth Gibsonson mentioned the history of the Holodomor, which we've talked about many times in this chamber, but we also have had, in the 1700s, the first banned Ukrainian religious texts were done. Peter II mandated the translation of state documents into Russians, and at the fall of the Russian Empire, Ukraine was absorbed into the Soviet Union, and we know about the purges and the Holodomor. But make no mistake, Putin sees himself as an extension of that shameful legacy. So today we say we stand with Ukraine, and I would like to quote their own national anthem in what I see in their bravery every day. The glory and freedom of Ukraine has not yet perished. Luck will still smile on us, brother Ukrainians. Our enemies will die as dew does in the sunshine, and we too, brothers, will live happily in our land and not spare either our souls or our bodies for freedom. Slava Ukraini.